gatekeeper, guardian, protector, advocate, legal scholar.
Protective, assuring, helpful.
Challenging, difficult, full of discretion.
Servant, protector.
Welcome to the Get to Know the Criminal Justice System Actors video. Hi, I'm Jennifer Storm. For the last 20 years, I've been an advocate for victims of crime. The criminal justice system can be intimidating, especially if you don't know who does what or where you can turn to for help. This video will provide an overview of the key people in the system, the roles they play, and how they can help you. Often, law enforcement are the first people to encounter crime victims, whether at the scene of a crime or when speaking with a victim reporting a crime that has already occurred. Let's hear from retired detective Angela Weeks about the role police officers play in the system.
I would describe my role as a law enforcement officer as the first face in the criminal justice system. We are the first impression that people have of what the whole system will look like. I would also describe my role as an information gatherer. I would tell you that the way I interact with victims now is that I try to engage very much so in active listening and giving them an opportunity to share their experience with an empathetic ear. I really believe that the work that we do is recognizing that every victim and every survivor that we respond to is different, and we have to meet them and be willing to meet them where they are. That my role is to offer them support and services and to hopefully help with their healing along the process.
Now let's turn our attention to victim advocates. Victim advocates can help victims navigate the justice system. Consider them like a compass, orienting victims as they travel through an otherwise confusing system. Victims advocates can be found in many agencies, including within the prosecutor's offices, in law enforcement agencies, community-based organizations such as rape crisis centers and domestic violence agencies, faith communities, and on school campuses. Here's how many of those advocates would describe their role.
My everyday interaction with victims involves phone calls, providing notification about court hearings, continuances, dispositions on cases, and sometimes just lending a hand and having an open ear just to hear what they want to discuss.
Literally like holding this container where people can put these experiences that happen to them and know that they have an absolute support in their court that is there for them and cares about their best interests.
And we have to really embrace people's dark times and walk through the dark times with them, understanding that sometimes they don't need advice from you. They don't need you to tell them what to do. They just want someone that will listen to them and demonstrate empathy.
I am a listener, an encourager and a supporter, and a connector of victims and survivors to the resources that they need.
Be a shooting star in, somebody's life at the worst time of their life.
It is not uncommon to have one or more victim advocates supporting the same victim. Another role in the criminal justice system is the prosecutor. Prosecutors are lawyers who represent the state or the federal government as they prosecute criminal cases. Prosecutors are not a victim's lawyer, but often they help ensure crime victims are afforded their legal rights. Let's hear from prosecutor Erin Greenawald about the role of a prosecutor.
A prosecutor's role is to assess the information that's provided to them. Usually that information comes to them by law enforcement, but sometimes maybe through the district attorney's investigators or defense attorney, and to assess that information to determine whether a crime has been committed, who has committed that crime, and if in fact whether that person who's committed the crime should actually be charged with committing that crime. Prosecutors should interact with crime victims quickly and frequently. Very soon after we as prosecutors get the case in, we should be engaging with crime victims and survivors. What I strive for as a prosecutor to be just one person of an entire team who is supporting this crime victim and the survivor throughout the entire process, from the time of getting the case in to charging it to hopefully a resolution, and then even beyond that. As a prosecutor, I represent the government, and in that role, I also strive to support the victim. In representing the government, however, sometimes that can come into conflict with what a victim or a crime survivor wants.
As you just heard from Erin, the prosecutor's job and their duties are to the state. This brings us to the next person, victims' rights attorneys. Let's hear from Rosemary Brewer about her role as a victims' rights attorney.
My role as a victims' rights attorney is to ensure that victims have a voice in the criminal justice system. The Oregon Constitution guarantees victims a meaningful role in the system, and victims' rights attorneys are there to make sure that that right is honored. Victims are to be treated with dignity and respect, and they have enforceable rights. And victims' rights attorneys can help them make sure that those rights are enforced and that they are a part of the system and that they are treated with the respect that they should be afforded. I want to make sure that my client knows that everything he or she tells me is confidential and that we can have conversations that nobody else will ever know about. I think the biggest general myth about victims' rights is that they don't have any, and that our role as an attorney is to seek some sort of civil settlement or something like that. The reality is that victims do have rights, and they have enforceable rights, and there are remedies available for when rights are violated, either by a defense attorney or by the prosecutor or by the court itself or by the system, because that happens too.
Another key person in the justice system is the judge. Prior to a case going to trial, they resolve questions that the prosecutor, the defense attorney, and the victim's attorney bring to them. If a defendant wants to plead guilty, a case can resolve by plea agreement, and the judge accepts that plea. If a case is going to trial, the judge facilitates that process. A trial can be one that involves a jury, or sometimes it can be a bench trial, which means the judge acts like the jury. Once there is a conviction from a plea agreement or trial, if that verdict is guilty, the judge imposes the sentence. Judges are the decision makers of what the law is in a case. We spoke with Philadelphia Common Pleas Judge Lori Dumas about her role.
I would say that I am a gatekeeper of justice, that I am a judge who is supposed to resolve conflicts and also to help people be comfortable in a space that is traditionally very fearful or causes fear in a lot of people. And so my role is to ensure that justice is served in the courtroom, that everyone is treated with respect, and that everyone understands their roles, their responsibilities, and their rights. I am also making sure that they understand that they have a voice and that they are allowed to use their voice, and that I'm going to take their voice into consideration every single time.
We hope you learned a little bit more about the people who play important roles in the justice system and found this quick tool useful. To learn more about the National Crime Victim Law Institute, please visit our website at ncvli.org.